Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Daily Crypto Byte. Today is Friday, September 3rd, and we got lots to talk about today because we are coming up to a holiday weekend. We've got some interesting price action happening today, pretty much across the board, and I think we could see some continued interesting price action this weekend. So, without further ado, CJ, what do you say we dive into some charts here today?
Yeah, a lot of excuse me, sorry about that. But yeah, a lot of interesting price action. Also, Uniswap being probed by the SEC, evidently. Just going to start off by saying they can't shut it down. They can't shut down the smart contracts of Uniswap, but what they can do is make it extraordinarily difficult, basically as difficult as transacting on a dark web website. Similarly to how they would do that in their jurisdiction. So they can make it extremely, extremely difficult, but they can't overall shut it down, which means, say, if somebody else embraces it, a country or Europe or not in the United States, it will still see relative volume. Those volumes just won't be as great, of course, if the U.S. isn't participating. So that's something that's definitely is interesting to take note of. But that's why we're seeing a lot of the DeFi assets either flat or a little bit down amongst a otherwise really booming market as Bitcoin nears 51K here.
Yeah, CJ, and this today has kind of been like a micro instance of what we've been seeing all throughout the last month. I mean, not in terms of the regulational probe, but in terms of DeFi kind of compressing relative to the rest of the market. We've mentioned this earlier in the week, but largely due to the NFT craze and the amount of speculation that NFTs have been seeing, DeFi assets like Uni, like Aave, like Comp, like CeeLo have not been seeing the typical amount of speculation you'd expect to see when we have the market performing like it is right now. But yeah, like I said, I think that has a lot to do with the amount of speculation we've seen in NFTs, what that's kind of done to the Ethereum network in terms of gas fees, but also just kind of the retail speculation has been focused elsewhere. That being said, those DeFi assets do seem like they're at a very good value right now relative to the rest of the market. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, they definitely are not doing well. I guess you can determine for yourself whether you think that means that they're undervalued. But it also opens the door to other things like Serum or kind of assets with more efficient transaction fees or lower transaction fees overall when you're dealing with a decentralized exchange. So that could be a potential alternative. There could also be other alternatives when it comes to lower gas fees. But I still think DeFi is going to be around, whether it be in the United States or elsewhere. So we might be seeing some undervalued assets here, but of course that doesn't mean we're just going to jump into them all at once. We want to watch for kind of a gradual uptick and potentially crossing over breakout levels. But what do you think, Monty? Are any of those DeFi assets like Aave or Comp the ones who have been down as a result of the high gas fees? Do you think that those are any potential opportunities in the coming months here?
Yeah, I definitely see those as opportunities. This has been a really weird month for crypto, largely because of NFTs and what they've done, to the Ethereum network in terms of gas fees, and that has brought about, massive other powerhouses like Solana. Solana has had a tremendous month. Maybe the story of the month, in my opinion, is the amount of speculation, both institutional and retail, that Solana has seen. And like Bill Parker points out, Solana is now releasing NFTs on their chain as well. I know one that Mike the Investor was talking about on his channel is the Degenerate Ape NFTs. Those are for sale on the Solana blockchain officially starting today. So I think that could definitely, steal some speculation and allow the gas fees to come back down and allow people to start speculating back into those DeFi assets that have really just been cooling off over the last couple of weeks. So it's going to be interesting to note, but I think that given the fact that Solana is starting to kind of really creep up in terms of the amount of price action it's seeing, I think that the ETH network is going to cool down a little bit, and that will allow DeFi to start seeing some, more speculation.
All right. Well, with that speculation, why don't we jump into the charts and talk about Bitcoin, because we have had a lot of very exciting price action last evening and to start the day as well. But I want to begin by talking about kind of momentum and some bearishness that we had discussed earlier in the week, because with a lot of the oscillators, including the RSI, including the MACD and many others, we had been focused on that short-term bearish divergence as price kind of increases. But now we're actually starting to see, with more volume coming in, a tick up in things like the RSI as well as the MACD. We're almost reaching another bullish cross there. So when you zoom out, I think it lends a better perspective of this overall trend here, which is that we're seeing a massive instance of actual strength and convergence as long as we can remain above this kind of upward sloping trend line on the oscillators. So this is actually showing a lot of strength, despite the fact that we had been talking about a lot of bearish divergences from a lot of these common oscillators, in the very recent times. One thing I do want to highlight, though, is that we're testing some critical levels here. I will go ahead and add the prices so that we can see those more specifically. But, beyond 55K, roughly 56K as well, there really isn't a lot of volume that occurred and not a lot of resistance until new all-time highs. What we have to struggle with or get over now is really this 51K level, specifically 5,700 overall. So these are the critical Fibonacci levels I am going to be watching for. But overall, I think we're still seeing a lot of strength in the overall market. Monty, you'd mentioned how we're finally actually breaking some of these cup and handle patterns to the upside when it comes to the larger assets like Bitcoin. So I think there's a lot to be excited about in these coming weeks with Bitcoin, especially with, I guess I'll just jump into this as I finish my point as well. This one other Glassnode item I wanted to share, but this has to do with spent output age bands. And we're looking at specifically long-term holders here, anyone who's been holding really longer than 6 months. And as you can see, aside from kind of a one-off spike earlier in the week when we saw those massive inflows, it's kind of just a one-off, but we saw that last week. And ever since, we haven't seen a major tick up in spent output bands. People are still holding their Bitcoin. They're not taking profits, which means like long-term bulls just aren't taking this exit liquidity like they were doing in 2018 and 2019. I mean, we got one reaction rally after our blow off top, and it looks like the entire long-term holders like really got out here and took profit. That's not really what they're doing at our current time. So I think this lends more evidence or momentum, I guess, to the bullish case. But thoughts on Bitcoin or any of that data, Monty?
Yeah, that's a great point, CJ. And I feel like that's been another one of the themes of like the last couple months is talking about the amount of illiquid supply with Bitcoin. And so much of that has to do with the long-term holders. That was really the most important market dynamic of the last 3 months, in my opinion, was their kind of distribution of assets into the strength of the market on the way up, and then the reaccumulation of assets on the way down. And the fact that, they're still accumulating assets at a steady rate while we're at this current price point, I think just lends credence to the strength of the market and to the fact that we're just kind of at the midpoint of this market cycle here. I think we're still, like you pointed out yesterday, not quite at the point of that retail mania that typically comes with, a massive bull run. So watch the Google trend data. Once we get that uptick in, Bitcoin searches, once we get people texting us, asking us if now is the time to go long Bitcoin, that's when we'll start to get those real crazy daily candles. But for now, it's just a sustained grind up because long-term holders are accumulating, locking away Bitcoin in cold storage with no intention of putting it back on the open market. So that's kind of been, in my opinion, the driving force of the market over the last couple months here.
Absolutely. I definitely think that the snowball is beginning to roll, and it's going to be obvious when retail participation is in. Like you said, you're going to get calls from people that you don't know who know that you're in crypto. And 3 assets in my mind are going to rally hard, which are Doge, Shiba Inu, and then Ethereum Classic. Not for really any fundamental reasons, but because retail loves to buy those assets for some reason. And we likely see them fly at the tail end of these mania cycles. But with that being said, speaking of Doges, would you like to get to your Doge of the day?
Yeah, sure thing. I will be happy to start us off today. So yeah, like we kind of said at the start of the show today, lots of assets, reaching critical levels today, particularly altcoins. And my Doge of the day today is going to be BitTorrent. So let me pull up this chart right here and I'll show you guys what I'm taking a look at here. So I had this level marked on my chart for the last week or so. Basically, from the time we came up here and put in this, uh, higher or lower high right here, I marked this as a critical level and kind of wanted to watch it for a breakout. This does kind of fit the criteria of a cup and handle. Got a nice rounded bottom here, formed this handle off this level, and came down to retest the 20-period smooth moving average, which we got a nice bounce from, and are now breaking above this critical level. The thing that really sold it for me, though, was the relative trading volume. As you can see here, we're getting a nice build in volume, which is what I like to look for when we're reaching breakout levels. That to me implies that we could see a continuation above this level and a nice breakout. Because as you can see here, on the way up in March, like many other assets, we moved up so quickly, we necessarily didn't establish many critical levels. So I think that bodes well currently for BitTorrent. It's been in a period of accumulation over the last 2 months or so, but now it's looking ready to run. The volume paradigm has kind of shifted at the start of the month of August, as you can see. And since this local bottom here, we've been steadily trending up in volume. And I'm just encouraged by what I've seen over the last 4 days here. Nice steady uptick from this moving average. And like I pointed out, we are now breaking above this critical level. So this is just one of many assets that are showing similar technical formations today. But I like what I'm seeing from BitTorrent. So that's why I've chosen it as my Doge of the day today.
Absolutely. Definitely fitting a lot of those, or I should say, satisfying a lot of those requirements for an entry off of the cup and handle strategy. But I do have a few Doges of the day. The first two I want to highlight just have to do with volume. And we're seeing massive volume spikes in FTX token, ticker symbol FTT. This is one that has just really trended well with Solana and a lot of the assets that have been related to the FTX ecosystem. As more users come onto that platform, I think that this token is going to do really, really well. I think it's one of those that Metcalfe's law applies to from a macro perspective. Also, we had news earlier this week that FTX is acquiring LedgerX. So they're going to be able to have a lot more funding into LedgerX, which is already in the United States, has a regulated options and derivatives platform for Bitcoin and Ether options and futures. So I think if FTX can really bring, options to the US mainstream and make them as ubiquitous as, say, buying a call option in GME or AMC, then I think that FTT is going to benefit a lot from that, as well as the entire FTX ecosystem. But aside from that long-term fundamental rant, I do just want to point out the massive spike in volume that we are seeing as we make new all-time highs here. So I think that FTT can definitely trend for, say, a couple more weeks, potentially up into the 60s or the 70s and 80s specifically. But that one's seeing a lot of volume. I also like Monty's going to laugh when I talk about this one because I don't think I've brought it up in over a year. But IOTA is
Yeah,
seeing a
I
lot of
noticed this
volume.
volume, CJ. This thing's talk about a lightsaber candle. Look at that.
Yeah, the Yoda candle. Here, I'll even change the color. There we go. So yeah, nice lightsaber candle in IOTA. A lot of volume spiking. So those are my two first picks because I do like the volume in both of those. I think that IOTA is likely poised for continuation up to potential new all-time highs as well. I remember Mike, the investor, when we had him on Wednesday, talked about IOTA as one of his interesting picks for the year. Also, my last one is going to be Link because I really like this technical formation. Somewhat similar to BitTorrent in the sense that it is finally breaking out above those previous highs. I like the fact that we're seeing increased volume that's above the average. So, we've had 4 days of consistently strong volume and Link as price continues to trend. I think that's a great sign for potential continuation. And just just to be curious, I do want to draw some retracement levels. So yeah, I mean, literally the most critical level here is likely going to be 37. But I think if we can break 37, there's a very high likelihood that Link continues to new all-time highs. And then potentially, I think some of these extension targets are really helpful for a potential target for Link, like say $76 here. If I continue to add some, you can see that's the 1.618 critical golden ratio Fibonacci level lining up for Link and an extension of about $75. So might watch for that one as an interim target as well if the trend is actually to be strong enough and break into new all-time highs. But I like Link, good project, solid fundamentals, and nice volume. So overall, those are going to be my 3 Doges of the day.
Great pick, CJ. Those are all showing some really interesting technical strength there. And I think that coming into this weekend, a long holiday weekend, we could definitely see some interesting price action. The signs right now are all pointing to strength, but you just never know with these holiday weekends. I think on Monday morning, we could see a bit of profit taking if we get some continued bullish price action today and tomorrow, but that has yet to be seen. You really never know. But we'll be in the crypto room talking about it all weekend. So if you guys want to come hang out, ask any questions over the long holiday weekend, we will be there, and you can try it for just $1 for your first month at marketrebellion.com/try crypto. We've got a pro charting service, a 24/7 chat with traders from all around the world. We publish actionable trading sites with entries, exits, and stop losses. We've been publishing a lot of those recently, and also news articles as well. So definitely head over there, check that out. We got an extensive education curriculum and a whole lot more. So we'd love to have you guys hanging out in there with us. And if you're looking for a brokerage to trade some crypto assets, Voyager is a great place to check out. You can trade 60 plus assets commission free at investvoyager.com.